everyone, welcome back to Squatch and Such. I'm your host Dylan Armett, and I'm here with Dude Kovac. Dude, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing great as well. And today we're talking with Instagram and Bigfoot field researcher Ryan Golembeske. So Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm killer, man. I'm talking to the future of squatching right now. It couldn't be a better day.
If you don't mind me asking, what is your opinion on Bigfoot? Like, what do you think about the whole thing?
About the whole thing? Well, I've been fascinated with Bigfoot since I was a kid. I had my first sighting really young. My father was stationed in Maine, and we would drive back and forth from Rhode Island to Maine. And one of the times we were coming home on the weekend, we were driving down the freeway, and I was sitting in the back, annoying the hell out of my mother. And I happened to look up, and there was a cliff ledge. And what I thought was, immediately I was like, whoa, there's a bear just standing up there. It was just standing, and it was perfectly still, right? But it was heavily shadowed, so I just thought it was a billboard of some sort, but I couldn't tell what it was. And I just kept watching it and kept watching it and kept watching it until just as I was almost like going to go out of view, it turned and walked back into the woods. And I was like, and I thought it was just a bear. And of course I screamed to my mom, it's a bear, I just saw a bear, I just saw a bear. She's like, there's no giant grizzly bears in Maine, And then cut to long story short, I don't know if it was a year later or what, Mom got me a book, and inside the book was a picture of Bigfoot, and I instantly knew what I had seen, and nobody believed me. Nobody. You're just a kid with a wild imagination, keep it to yourself. And that got me interested. And then just as a kid, I don't know, like I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid to go outside. I was afraid of everything that we're all afraid of. And at some point, and I wish I remembered the actual trigger point that got me to do it, I just started facing my fears. So I would, my grandmother's house, they had that creepy doll that looked like from Poltergeist. So I would actually go into the closet, sit with the doll, scared to death, and just wait. And after I did that a bunch of times, I realized nothing's happening. Like there's no evil creature going to try and jump out at me. Like it's literally all in my head. And so then I just started pushing it. I started going into haunted houses. I started going places where people say it was squatchy or whatever, and I would just go. And I'll tell you, nothing scary ever happened. And the only reason anything scary happened was because I would freak myself out so much that one little creak and then I would go running,
Yeah, 100%.
But it got me prepared for this field because, as you guys know, when you go out there and you stand before a wall of darkness at the edge of your reality and you call out into the night and something calls back, you're going to find out what kind of a person you are. Yeah. And practice makes perfect, and training helps, because if you haven't done scare training, you're gonna poop your pants, man, and you're gonna run and ask for your mama. So I don't know. Do I believe they are real? Yes. Do I have 100% proof? No. Mm-hmm. But I have literally made it my career. I worked and was on finding Bigfoot for over 6 years. I was in the start of Expedition Bigfoot. I know everybody in the industry and around, and I have been lucky enough to travel the world looking for Bigfoot. And I have more stories of weird stuff happening in the woods in remote places in the middle of nowhere. And unless the audience wants to tell you, hey, there's a bunch of eccentric billionaires running around with military-grade tech messing with all of us, then okay. But if not, then there is some kind of relic hominids that are very smart to stay away from us, because at the end of the day, we aren't the premier predator. We're a super predator, and we don't like things that scare us, unfortunately. I can keep going, but you want details? What would you like, man? Once I get going, you're gonna have to tell me to shut up.
Well, we know you've been on lots of expeditions, like you've said, but how many expeditions have you been on? If you can't give a specific number, then that's fine, but...
In terms of exact number, I don't know. I've been doing it since I was a kid, and to be honest, the majority of mine have always been wherever we were locally. So hundreds. Now, legit, like paid for, like we're there with cameras and everything, that's more like 50 or so. And that's because I literally just traveled for years working on a show and was put, thank you to Finding Bigfoot, was just put in the perfect place to look for Sasquatch. I mean, we attempted to show up as freshly as possible after sightings, but still, usually the areas that are hotbeds for activity remain hotbeds for activity. You just have to make sure you're there the right time of the year. Yeah, and it's wonderful. Have you two, have you done a bunch of your own expeditions? Like, how do you guys do it?
We sometimes we get together and we just go out in the woods, sometimes hiking trails, sometimes just, in the mountains. We just go and we search for things, we do calls and stuff like that.
Awesome.
I've never been on a big expedition with lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we just go out in the woods and we look for, yeah.
Well, let me tell you something, right? Like, so let's say they exist, and we all believe that. It's an apex predator. And apex predators, they can hunt anything, anywhere, land, in the ocean, you name it, climb the trees, underground. And so when you're a predator, what are the two types of prey that predators tend to focus on? The young, because less likely to get hurt and super nutritious, and the elderly, the older of the species, because they're easy to take down and it's time. It's the natural order of things. So I'll just be honest, you guys have a better chance. If we went out in the same woods and we were both doing it, walking around, you would have a better chance of having some kind of interaction with them because they're drawn to kids, kids and the elderly. And then there's a few other things that are kind of weird that they're drawn to, but at the end of the day, you two going out is super key. And honestly, one thing I'd just like to hit on is in our culture, we really don't have a rite of passage anymore for our kids. Ending high school, kinda, trade school, college, kinda. But a true rite of passage lets you know that you're a man and where you stand in your community. And one of the most amazing things you guys could do for yourselves, with your parents' permission, of course, is you do your own solo trip in the woods for a night. And you don't have to don't go far. You can go right behind your house if you have woods, but do it. It will teach you so much about yourself, and you'll realize just how afraid you still are. And then you'll also realize that there's nothing to fear. There really isn't. Nature, I could really go on for a while, but I do that to myself once a year. And even as a grown adult who's done it a bunch, if I wait too long, it still scares me. And I still realize I'm like, oh God, Yeah. But you will come back feeling like the man when you just survive a night in the dark alone. And I wish that for both of you at some point in your life, that you go out and do that and make that a practice. It's really important. And you'll have interactions. Let me tell you. And the rest of nature, as you're out there, like just as an example, I'm laying there the last time I did it, once again being like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this by myself? All I have is a hatchet. I didn't bring a gun. I didn't bring anything. And I hear the coyotes come in. Sounded like 100 of them just coming at me. And I'm sleeping in a hammock, and I just tied up between two trees because I like to be out under the stars. And I hear them coming. I hear them coming louder, and then just dead silent because they know I'm there. And then it's dead silent, and you start to hear them like move around and talk quietly. And then guess what? They moved on. Giant deer comes up and just starts snorting next to me. And that scared the heck. I was like, oh my God. Because if it charges me, I can't see anything. Visibility was like to hear, we're so visually dependent, which is kind of a bummer for our species, right? But then it went around me. Every single thing went around me. And that's all I can tell you, man. You have a natural force field kind of around you. Unless an animal is protecting its young or it's desperate and hungry, it's not going to go anywhere near you because it knows exactly what you are. And, you're the super predator.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And which expedition has stuck out to you that you'll always remember?
Oh, like one key? There've been a lot of good ones. You said, Dylan, you're from the East Coast. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you're East Coast. You don't have to tell me where, but Turner Maine. Have you ever seen the Turner Maine video? What year did that kid put it out? 2000 some. I don't know the exact date, but he put a video out of a Squatch in daylight walking around. Wow. And Yeah, which is kind of crazy. You can look at it online, and when you find the Turner Maine video, it's an old logging road that goes into the woods, right? And so we're there filming. We showed up to stand in solidarity with this kid because you know our culture these days. You post something online, you're all excited, it's new and it's neat, and what do most people do? They make fun of you. And we're obviously not fans of bullies because pretty much anyone that follows this field or anything out of the norm gets bullied, right? And it's not cool. So we showed up to stand in solidarity, and we went out that night. Now, when I was on the show for a long time, I worked behind the scenes, and when the teams would go out, if I didn't go with them, I would always do this one thing. So if you ever go with a group, try it. When they go out, whatever direction they go out in, you just stay near camp, but in the opposite direction. And in that video, you'll see a logging road that goes out. And so at about like 2:33 in the morning, the team comes back. They're done for the night. We had howls, wood knocks, all sorts of interactions. And as they came in from the woods, I went out on this logging road. And there's a lot of details to it because I was trying a lot of different things. But one thing I believe is I bring an apple, I bring organic apples out, and I will get down and kneel. Great apes, if you see gorillas and stuff, if they kneel, they'll put their palm out when they're in trouble, and then the elder, or the dominant, will run its hand across, saying, "You're okay." So since nobody really knows, because nobody's lived among them, or if they have, they haven't told us about it, nobody knows what works. So I'm more about showing great respect, which I'll actually get into afterwards, how if you want a genuine experience, I'll give you the wisdom of Native Americans, which is all I use, and it worked for me. It works more than it doesn't. How's that? So anyway, I go out there, and I kneel down, and I do it for a while, and then I realize I'm not quite in shape enough to do it too. Like, just kneel down and put your arm out, and you're like, 30 seconds in, you're like, oh God, I should train for this. And so I get up and I take the apple and I throw it down this logging road. Now, describe this night. It was the darkest night I've ever been in the woods. The cloud level was in the forest, so it's already a deep, dank, dark forest. And on top of that, there's moisture in the air. So literally visibility, I could not see my hand right here. So, but I knew I was on the road. So I throw this apple about, 40 yards down, and it lands where the road kind of went around. It had become deep, maybe like 2 feet of water. It was just wet, so wet and dripping. And I threw this apple and it landed in it. And when it hit the water, that spooked me. I was like, oh, and no lie, at 3 o'clock in the middle of nowhere, Turner, Maine, on the darkest night I've ever been in the woods, something immediately walks out with zero visibility, and you hear kaploosh, kaploosh in the water, and then you hear bloop as it picks it up, and then kaploosh, kaploosh, and is out.
Wow.
Now, the only thing I can tell you at that moment, because we're there for it, so you're prepared, and I'm a squatcher, you still are just riddled with primordial fear, I would say. And I got right down on my hands and waited, you know what I mean? And then from that point on, what I heard was, it sounded like, but very faint. And then I started taking little stones and throwing it. And at first I didn't notice, but I was so hyper aware and scared that I noticed that when I would throw, right when my stone would hit, another little one would hit right near me. Wow. And I didn't notice it at first. I threw maybe 15. So like getting around 10, I started to go, wait. And then I throw it and it would go tunk. And then when I must have shown that I was getting what's going on, and then it stopped. And that was amazing. And then after that, I went and told Bobo, James Fay, I'm sure you guys know who he is. Yeah. And then it just started getting crazy around there because he went in the woods with me, and then he heard it walking around, and we tried to record it, and we weren't able to get anything else, of course. It's squatchy. But that will always stick with me because that was the first time on the road where I was wowed by it, and like I was that close. And so that's really, even though it's not my first time, I consider it my first time as an adult, like being near one. It was really powerful, man. When you're like, when someone is so genuine about how they feel, they can't hide it. It's just on their face. They're kind of relaxed and in shock. And that's how I was. And, it's like going fishing and catching a big fish, or playing golf and getting a hole in one. Once you get that, as you guys, I'm sure you guys have heard, you're hooked. You're hooked forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah. So that was a big one. There's a few other ones, but that one will always stay with me. And plus, I was surrounded by my community, my friends that also believed, and that's really nice too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 100%.
Sometimes the fun of it is being with other people that also share your interest.
100%, man. Find your tribe. Find your tribe. As you guys go through this, don't listen to anyone that tries to knock you off your path. Take advice, listen to people, but you'll notice there's no quicker way to shut down your passion and your drive than talking to someone that just makes you feel like you're dumb. So, I'm not saying get rid of people fully out of your life, but move them to the side if they are not encouraging you to be the best version of yourself and that what you're doing is just simply awesome. Because it is, guys. It's awesome. Look at you.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Look how motivated you are at your age. It's amazing. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sure your folks are too.
Yeah. So that story you told me reminded me of, actually, Dylan. Yeah, no, you were with me. I think it was last time we went Bigfoot hunting, not in Tennessee. We've had really good luck at this one spot.
Okay.
And last time we went Bigfoot hunting, I'm not sure if you've heard about this, but there's a theory that Bigfoot emits fear.
Infrasound.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, you might not even see it, but it will still emit fear. And last time we went Bigfoot hunting, we were walking along, and we just both froze at the same time. And we couldn't move. And I remember that as being probably one of the most terrifying moments ever.
Yeah.
For me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's probably the most memorable experience for me in terms of Bigfoot hunting.
Yeah. Well, infrasound's a real thing. The American alligator is the only thing in this part of North America that can emit infrasound. Elephants, obviously, rhinos. Basically, you have to be large enough to have a big enough rib cage, in the most simplest form, to be able to admit it. And over the years, I've interviewed thousands of people, and let me tell you, there are stories of hunters. I'll tell you one of the best. Not my story, but one that I've heard. So this guy, he's up in his hunting stand, right? Been hunting the same family land for generations. Never seen anything like that. One of those people that just think that's BS. You know what I mean? People get drunk in the woods. And he's up in his hunting stand. He's been there for hours. He has not moved. He's not drinking. He's not anything. He's there to catch food for his family. And the pigs start to come down the game trail, and there's a nice line of it. And then right as he lets the first couple pass, and right as he's about to fire, somehow in his peripheral, so in his view range, which he had just associated with a stump, a female Sasquatch stands up and roars, okay? So there was the sound that you could hear, but then there was the low frequency sound, the infrasound. And he says he's up in the stand kind of behind it. The first three pigs just dropped. They just went, poof. The other ones got dizzy, closer, and then the farther ones back didn't really affect, and they just ran. And he was up in the stand, and he himself was like, he almost passed out. He felt like a little nauseous all of a sudden. He didn't understand. He just thought it was because he was so afraid at that moment. And this female Squatch just walks to the first, 150, 200-pound pig, one hand, cracks the back, picks it up, puts it over the shoulder, turns, looks at him, and then walks off. He never went back hunting in that spot ever again, even though, if you have an experience like that, obviously it's not there for you. Because if it was, you guys, that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're going to do it, they're never going to bother you. Do I think there may be a couple of bad ones out there, maybe like teenager Squatches that are, getting
rowdy?
Yeah, a little rowdy, yes. But the odds of finding that, listen, don't come near us. We are disease ridden. You know what I mean? Like smallpox, COVID, whatever you want. They're smart to stay away from us, and they will, and they're not desperate for food. They can literally get it anywhere. And if they are half as intelligent as us, they can store food, So pretty safe. Anyway, but infrasound's real because if you see the first episode of Expedition Bigfoot, the new big show, first season, I got knocked out of that show because I got violently sick in those woods, and it could have been infrasound, and so I might be like a perfect example of infrasound poisoning, and it messed me up big time, and then I've never had it again, never.
Yeah.
Never. Like a migraine, headache, dizzy, uncontrolled body, and it lasted for a while. It was like I was constantly getting blasted with it, but who knows? Clean bill now,
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other cryptids that you think could be real?
Any in the world? Well, personally, sure, all of them. Until
Hmm.
somebody proves it otherwise, why wouldn't they be? If you want to get into specifics, I think like Nessie and Champ and things like that, start looking into giant eels. Just look
Hmm.
into eels. You know, there are eels that breathe in the Sargasso Sea, and then they come back into fresh water to breathe, and they swim back out to die. And if they don't go back out, technically they can just keep growing if they get stuck in a place,
Hmm.
and this is Loch Ness and some of those lakes. So personally, what do I think people are seeing? I think they're seeing, because giantism exists in all species,
Yeah.
and so all you need is to get one that ends up being 15 feet long or 12 feet, and when people see that, you don't have any context for that. It'll just like, oh, scare the heck out of you. And that's why they always have that weird undulating body with like a smooth head. They have a very eelish look, but I would dive into eels and really look into it, because I think a lot of water creatures are misidentified that way. And I'll tell you one interesting thing. Look into Jacques Cousteau. I'm sorry I don't have the exact details on it, but he was somewhere over like near the Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and they went over there. And how about this? Any place on maps in the ocean or on land that is like Devil's Peak, Devil's Trench, Devil whatever. The reason the devil word is there is because at some point somebody saw something,
Yeah.
be it Bigfoot, whatever, and that's why they give those names. So that's a great place to start your looks. Anyway, so Jacques Cousteau, and this is a true story. Jacques Cousteau was like, okay, so this is Devil's whatever it was trench, and so they get a giant shark cage made for great whites, with epic bite power, and they put the carcass of a camel in it, and they lower it down like almost 2 miles. Now, whatever happened next, when they raised it up, the entire cage was destroyed, the carcass was gone, and when Jacques Cousteau looked at the footage with his crew, he turned to them and said, "Destroy this tape. Mankind's not ready for this yet."
Hmm.
Wow.
So what was it? You know what I mean?
Yep.
What? It could. What is it? Who knows? Megalodon? Like chronosaurs? Just giant octopus? Who knows? But there's something out there, man. This is a water planet. This is a
Hmm.
water planet, and we're not diving to the bottom of the ocean. We're not checking it out. Don't you think there's a reason for that? Wouldn't we be all super into that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nope. No. Most of it's unexplored.
Hmm.
So yeah, there is a lot of wonder out in the world, a lot of it, and you just have to be able to move beyond the social norms to go and explore it and enjoy it. And you guys are on your way, man. You're on your way. And once you get a budget and stuff, then you can put together some good trips, and then hit me up, and
Yeah.
I'll help you guys out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you have a fairly big Instagram presence, and we looked at some posts of yours, and we saw that you were looking for John Swift's silver mine a few years back, and we're wondering if you found anything while you were there.
That's that's an amazing question. Uh, One of the beautiful things about producing is that you get to go meet all the people that have done all the hard work. And you just come in when they're like, look, this is what I found. The amazing thing about Jonathan Swift's silver mines, okay? So, as you guys probably know, in the Appalachia, I saw some stuff you posted on the Blue Ridge Mountains and stuff. There's something called the Mammoth Cave System underneath Kentucky, underneath like Appalachia, okay? And it's massive. It's like 400 plus miles. It's the largest in the world. And there's a lot going on there. They were both used by animals. I think Bigfoot uses them as like an underground highway and a place to like camp out and be safe. But also man used it to some extent. And I guess this is what I'll tell you. And you're going to have adventures and you're going to fail sometimes. And it's going to be awful. Because at the end of the day, I'm the nicest person. I wouldn't screw anybody over. I want to help you achieve your dream. I think we're here to lift each other up, not to knock each other down. There's no competition. If you guys, I'll give you my experiments, whatever. You guys go do it. You do it better. I'm proud of you and I'm happy. And just tell me about it. I just want to know, right? So we went down there and I made friends with someone, and I won't say any names or anything. And I legitimately wanted to help them. And I will tell you this, matter of fact, and I 100% believe it. When we were preparing this, somebody thought they found a possible like a storage space, not where they were making it or whatnot, but just a place they were holding it. And so now imagine going into the woods. And Kentucky, I don't know if you guys spent a lot, you said Tennessee, so it's just like you could just be driving and then right there next to you is a huge gorge that just goes on for miles. So there's a lot of places to hide. And here's what was amazing about this place. So the Swift Silver Mine, one of the symbols they used was pyramids, okay? So all the places where people found caches, there would be a little pyramid next to it or a couple. This one I'm talking about has a giant pyramid, like half a mile, not even from it, quarter of a mile. And so that's a great sign. And then when you get there, you kind of go along and you're literally on like a cliff edge, like not something you would die off of, a lot of leaves, trees, but you'd be hurt if you fell. And you're going along this Indiana Jones thing. And then you come to a cave, and it used to have a capstone on it. So they would hide it. You would never know if you were just normally hiking. But there's been earthquakes there, so the capstone fell off. And what you had, which was so bizarre, is you have a carved out cave of sandstone. So it's you could just go and carve your initials in it if you press hard enough, even just with your finger. Outside of this cave are Swift's name and all the people that helped him. And we won't get into all the crazy details and stuff, but it's all right there. And this cave, you look in it and it's kind of freaky. It's not that it's that big, but you could definitely like kind of walk in, and there's dirt that slowly builds up from the front until it covers up to almost the ceiling in the back. And it's not, it's sand, so it's dirt from outside. So somebody backfilled this cave all the way in. And they didn't find, and here's some other interesting, there's the Great Shawnee Cave, Great Shawnee, I hope I'm getting that right, but it's the Indians of that area, and there is burial sites all around it, and it's on the ancient path the warriors walked. I am telling you flat out that I believe that inside that cave is 100% the lost treasure of Swift, part of the lost treasure, not the whole treasure. We could literally do a whole podcast just talking about that, who he actually was, and some interesting facts that I don't know. But yeah, do I think I found a treasure cave? 100%. The only problem is the guys that I was working with, they got cold feet and they just bailed on me. I showed up to go and help them mine it and just wanted to be a part of it and document it because it could be the greatest find, in forever. And they just left me hanging. And I've always been bummed about that because imagine, you guys like the movie Goonies?
Yeah.
One of my favorites, like, of all time. And I was there, man. I almost found the pirate ship. And then I'm just too nice. I've never gone back to just do it myself. So, I'm not sure what to do, but is treasure real? Is that real, the Swift thing? Yeah. Watch Call of the Wild was the TV show that we did for that. It's not on. It was one season. Two amazing brothers, the Kiefer brothers, self-made millionaires, just the kind of people that are inspirational. Like you two are inspirational. They did that. They've created it. And you'll know what cave I'm talking about. And it's real. 100%. Yeah. Did I lose you? Sounds like the sound's out.
Oh,
Oh, no, there you are.
There you go. I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You have a donkey, don't you?
A donkey?
Do you have a donkey?
I don't. My uncle does. My dad does. I don't have a donkey.
Yeah,
Okay.
we saw a picture on your Instagram of you with the donkey.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were wondering if that was yours.
Yeah.
No, it's not. But we just moved back to the country, and our goal is once we find our forever home, so to speak, to go full farm and full everything, living amongst nature and being a part of it. I want to be Dr. Doolittle. I'm taking courses in animal communication. People tell you that that's not real. I invite you guys to look up Diablo the Panther with an animal communicator named Anne, and I would butcher her last name if I said it. But that video, that video made me believe 100% that it's real, because people are able to go in and, not to ruin it for you, but essentially there's this panther named Diablo, devil, and it was really unhappy. And they had actually moved it from zoo to different caretakers to where it finally ended up in the hands of like the Santa Claus of animal rescue. Like this guy can get through to every animal and they love him, and it wouldn't go anywhere near him. It was just mean, and anytime people came by to see it, it would snarl and snash, and it never came out of its cage into the field. And anyway, so they were desperate. Desperate people, suddenly they're open-minded. So they're like, well, bring an animal communicator. Let's see what happens. So Anne comes in, and she talks with him. And he says two things. When I was in the zoo, I was next door to another cat, and I want to know how the cat's doing because it was all alone and it was young. And so they went and found out and told him that he's doing great. He's in the zoo, and he's happy and healthy. And then he goes, and I want my name changed. Would you want to be called Devil every day? Does anyone want to be called fat or ugly or whatever? And so they changed the cat's name. And then just like that, the cat didn't snarl at anyone, was fine with people, and it left its cage and started walking around. Just understand many things that you may have been taught are a lie and are wrong. And that's it. So just keep pushing. If you're curious about it and your gut, your instinct, when you're born, the first thing to form inside you is your stomach, and you have brain cells in there. So your gut, when people say trust your gut, learn to do that. Learn to listen to your intuition, because we're like the dwarves in Lord of the Rings. We're diving too deep into the earth, aka technology, and it is removing us from the natural world and from ourselves. So I encourage you and invite you to stay as close to the natural world as you can, and you will be happier. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you own any animals? Do you farm any animals?
Yeah, we just, well, if you count kids, I got 3 kids under 3 and a puppy under 3 and 10 chickens. Oh. So we're on our way to having a farm and having a real fun place to hang out.
That's
But
great.
my dad's got a full barn with everything from horses to donkeys to you name it. And then my mom lives right next to her brother, and they've got an alpaca farm, so a lot of animals. Why, do you guys have animals?
I just have a dog, but
we have over here, we have like 6, 7 chickens.
Nice.
And 2 dogs.
Yep.
So yeah, they're fun. And so this is the last Instagram related question I have for you.
Sure.
A few years ago, you went to Alaska, and Alaska has a bunch of Sasquatch activity. Well, not a bunch, but it has a fair amount. So did you find or see anything there that was Bigfoot related?
No, I was there to work, and we flew into Alaska when everyone's flying out of Alaska because the good weather is ending. So did we, and I wasn't there to do that. Am I always on the lookout? Am I always asking locals and whatnot? Sure, but Alaska is the wild frontier. I mean, it is so massive, like good luck, right? One thing that we did that was really amazing is we flew down to a tiny, tiny town, and when we, imagine driving down a road, and it's just straight, you know how mostly they make roads turn so you don't fall asleep and go off the road? Straight through the woods for over an hour, just driving. It was like a Twilight Zone episode, just the trees going by. You felt like you were in some great labyrinth, bald eagles flying down, catching fish. And when we got to the very end, what we didn't know we were going to find that we found, which was amazing, was a moss forest. And if you ever get a chance to actually be in a moss forest, I mean, it's just dripping. Everything is covered with moss. And like when you walk, it's like you're walking on a bed. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful and really unique, but nothing squatchy. Nothing. So,
yeah,
not sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I recommend going, though. I recommend going. It's epic. Yeah. All the people there are really dynamic. It's like everybody is like, well, what are you? He's like, well, I'm a doctor and I'm a commercial pilot, but I'm just working as a barista right now. You're like, what? Like everyone is that amazing. I don't know. You just, yeah. Check it out someday.
Which part of Alaska did you go to?
We were all in and around Anchorage, and then what's the name of it? I'm trying to think of the little town that we went to with the, what is it? I'm less of a memorizer, like I know we're brought up in schools to just memorize. I'm a feeler, so it's how the places like really made me feel. I'll have to, maybe I can look it up. But yeah, in and around Anchorage, you don't have to go very far there, especially the time of year we were there. Let's see, what is it? Come on, Google. I only got two. Oh, nice. I still have it marked on a map. No, no, I'm not going to be able to find it quick enough. I don't want to burn too much tape on this.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Would you recommend squatching to anyone, or would it have to be a very select type of person?
No, no, no. I'm all about being inclusive, and I think people need to attach way more with the natural world in your physical self. And so, no, it's for everyone. Does that mean everyone's going to have an experience? No, because most people's heads are so far up their butts, and they're meaning up their technology and their phones and their silly issues that they have. Because most of us, we're not being true to our authentic self and living our true purpose, you know? And at some point in your childhood, you were beat up so bad that you forget that the whole reason you're here is to play and have fun and to find the things and to find the people that lift you up, make you feel great. So no, it's for everyone, you know? Do I want to see jerks in the woods or people when they're in their jerk phase? Because you will be a jerk at some points. You will be the hero. You will be the villain. We will play all roles. It's a dynamic life. So it's not best for people at that point, but everyone should get out there. I would never alienate anyone just because, you know, they're not a great person. I think it's important to get out there.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
So, do you have any tips or suggestions that you want to give people about Bigfoot field research? Like, is there
Sure.
anything that you think people should know before going squatching?
Yeah, of course. So on Finding Bigfoot, we traveled all over the country and went to all these different Indian reservations and spoke with all of their elders. And they all said the same thing. They're their lost brothers. You know, it is a tribe that is out there that stays very remote and very distant because we are very violent. And if you want to have an interaction with them, and they happen to be there at the time, it's really simple. One is you put your intention out before you even go. So wherever you guys go next in your adventure, and you can start a month ahead of time, I think the more the better. And you just start, I don't know if you guys meditate or not, or just drift off thinking, but just let the woods, let any squatches know that you're coming. You know, you're on your way, and continue to try and form a link with them. You know, mind speak, telepathy, prayer. There's a lot of names for it. Don't get weighed down on definitions. Just be true and authentic, and say, we're coming. Do you want to participate? Then when you get there, right when you first get there, before you go off, you know, when you do your team huddle or you're prepping, bring something to offer to them. Now, Native Americans, it'll be like some sage and tobacco, maybe even like water that's been blessed from a sacred lake that they're near, whatever it is. Basically, it's just something that's important to you. You know, like maybe you've had a stone that you've had forever that you normally would never let go of. But the simple act of taking something that's insignificant but important to you and leaving it and letting them know, thank you for letting us come to the woods and for letting us play here. And here's an offering for you. And then, you know, if you cohabitated, if you guys ended up living in a place where they're there and you did that on the reg, guess what? They would start to leave you gifts in return, which is really interesting. So anyway, set your intention, leave an offering, and be respectful. And that's it. And let me tell you, when I started doing that, because I didn't do that at first either, you know, I was an ignorant white guy, like just, we're going to storm in these woods and I'm smarter and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, pride's vicious. When you humble yourself and realize that you're walking into their cathedral, to their stadium. And so my other advice on top of that is train to be a physical being, meaning get in the best shape you possibly can. begin breathing exercises. I don't know if you guys know of Wim Hof, but practice breathing so that you don't get cold, that you could literally run around in shorts in the winter and you'd be fine for a few hours. Like, imagine trying to become a Squatch, like the ultimate, basically you're Beowulf incarnate. You can swim miles out to sea, you can do anything. And when you get into that frame of thought, Native American, read a bunch of books on what it takes to be a tracker. If you're a really good tracker, a deer can be bedded in a field, not asleep, just there, just alert, but just kind of chilling. And if you're good enough, you can learn to move and with the environment, and you can actually get up close enough to touch the deer before it realizes you're even there. These things are possible for human beings to do. Now imagine what a Squatch does when there is no television, there is no social dilemma, there's no distractions. Your full intellect is put into being a god of the woods. And so I encourage you or anyone to do it, to approach from that angle. Learn bird sounds, learn animal sounds, learn what everything is in the forest, because once you really start to see the forest, see it, not just observe it, but really see what's going on, that's when the footsteps will pop up. That's when the sounds that don't match will pop up. And you will get there so much faster than anyone else. And plus, you'll be in phenomenal shape. You'll be a specimen. And here's my kind of final on that is, everyone approaches it kind of the same way. Bring cameras, blast sound, but that's all done, I think, from a fear-based system, because at the end of the day, you don't really want it to happen, because it's like, what? There's a giant in the woods and it's actually going to come up to me. So you really have to change your train of thought, because if they do have infrasound, if they can mind speak, if there's something else going on out there, you have to be prepared for that, and you have to be strong and brave. And I think, animals, they can sense when you're afraid. They can smell it on you. And that's why I say, go out, do a night alone in the woods until you're no longer afraid. And on that day that you're not afraid to be out there, if you have to separate from the group, whatever, that's when stuff will start happening, because you're ready,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add before we head out?
Besides endless amounts of stories and whatnot, I don't know. I think I just want to tell you, it's an honor for you guys to be achieving this with such poise and passion. I want to say thank you to your parents for raising two good kids. And honestly, for everyone listening, find your mentors. You need mentors. You don't need, not to go too far down it, but mentors are very important. So you guys ever want to talk, you're going to go on an expedition, you got some other questions, reach out. I will gladly help you to whatever ability I can for your things. And that's important, because it'll help you skip through a lot of the crap. And if you're really listening to me, you've just been given everything that I've learned over 40 years. So, you decide if you want to use it or not. And that's it, man. I think you guys are awesome, and I'm psyched. And I don't do a lot of podcasts. I don't do a lot of these things. I'm kind of, I'm actually gearing up right now. I guess we'll leave it on that, do a little promotion. But I'm about to go down to Florida and go looking for the skunk ape, and with my buddy Stacy Brown Jr., who won $1 Million Bigfoot bounty, and he's a known name in the space and the top guy in squatching for the skunk ape, hands down.
Yeah.
And we're going down there. And, I've worked in TV for so long. And, another thing I tell people is, you don't need TV. You don't need big studios. You don't need anyone else. As you guys are proof, you know what I mean? You just need some equipment and some passion. So don't wait for it to be perfect. Just find your tribe and go. And just go at it and stay open. Just stay open to things that most people are going to tell you are ridiculous. That's it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Follow your heart.
You.
Yeah. You guys rock.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that about wraps this episode up. You can follow Ryan on Footin' with RPG, and you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Squatch and Such. If you want to email us with questions, comments, anything like that, and if you want to be a guest on Coffee and Cryptids, email us at squatchandsuch@gmail.com. That is SQUATCHNSUCH@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon if you want to support us over there. Link below, and I hope you all have a great week.
All right, bye.
Keep it squatchy.